Hello, good evening, everyone. Good day all across the world, depending on where you're watching us from. I want to thank you for being here today. And this is Just Design. Just Design is a platform, a design community for sharing, learning, and networking among design professionals to ensure we are able to disseminate knowledge, share experiences of practicing design, practicing designers across a spectrum of industry, and to ensure we're able to collaborate and work together. And this is my design journey. My design journey is simply one of the outlets, one of the platforms of Just Design, where we have designers share their experience, their design journey, and with the hope that it can inspire other designers to do more and reach better, and together we can build a better world. And so today we have my very good friend, architect Leye Durodola. We've been friends and colleagues now for about 22 years thereabouts, and we're college buddies. And it's interesting that Architect Leye has risen very fast in the industry, and is now a partner with GHK Architects. That's Gordon Upwood Kuya Architects. And so we'll just quickly take his bio, and then we'll have Architect Leye give us his presentation.
Leye is an architect with keen interest in the designing and planning of industrial buildings and infrastructure. He graduated from Covenant University with BSc and MSc in architecture in the years 2006 and 2008 respectively. Currently into consultancy as a partner with GHK Architects. His work experience spans over 14 years in design, project management, and contract administration of complex greenfield and brownfield projects in diverse and challenging business environments. This experience also includes non-industrial buildings such as hospitality, commercial as well as residential.
Thank you very much. And so quickly, we'd like to leave the floor for Architect Leye Durodola. So, Leye, you have the floor. We'll be glad to hear you share your journey with us.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be on this show. It's been about a decade I've seen Gbenga, but I've always followed him on this program. And I would say big thank you for having me to share my little experience. And well, quickly, let's just move. I'm trying to share my screen. I'm having challenge with it, but I will just flow. I think, well, my design journey started several years back from school. So I will share my school experiences, my work experience, my philosophy, some of my designs, and some learning points. And I think my team basically is teamwork makes the dream work. If you don't have a good team, then the project is in shambles. So quickly, let me start from my school days, reflecting on studentship days, my inspiration and challenges. I think one of the inspiration I had was my family. My family background were into environmental, and I think number one was that my dad didn't want me to do architecture. So I fought tooth and nail to ensure that I did that, and I wanted to prove to him that I would do what I want to do and make progress with it. Then, secondly, I had an uncle who was an architect, and I just love the way he does his things. He designs and he brings it to life, and I mean, that's basically one of my inspiration, family. Then I think secondly in school, my colleagues, they are great minds. Our set had people who are very, very brilliant, intelligent, and we had healthy competitions in class. You know, some of us we have our weaknesses, some of us we have strength. I remember vividly where there were a group of people who were good with painting. When they presented, they just use their painting to wow the lecturers. And so people like us that don't know how to paint, we had to key into that and, you know, started painting all of a sudden. I started painting all of a sudden. So my classmates were great inspiration to me in the school days. I think also I had this ideology that as an architect, you're a superhuman. Reason being is that, for example, if they give you a brief, as they give you a brief to design a hospital, as the architect, you will think like the doctor, you will think like the nurse, you will think like the cleaner, you will think like the security man, just to ensure that your design comes out perfect and meets the need of all the end users. When it comes to challenges, I think number one is cultural shock. I came into Covenant University maybe I finished my OND, and it was a total shock to me culturally because the environment I was coming from was a public space. You do as you like. There's no control. It's your life. But coming to a private university, there was a lot of constraints, and no regrets though. Rules are rules. Once you agree to the terms and conditions, you find a way around it. The second challenge was productivity and time management. Oftentimes because of the school activities, there was always clash between studio time and school programs, and it was always difficult to meet deadlines. And so with all that, we found a way around it and did what we had to do and got the grades that we wanted and graduated from Covenant University. It was a good time, and I'm glad I took that journey through Covenant University. Now I would like to talk about my work experience. And before I go to the successes and failure, I would like to just give a brief on how I came about what I'm doing now. I was fortunate to do my NYC in Abuja in an architectural firm. That's about 2008, 2009. And when I finished, I started working with another firm. But I wasn't getting what I wanted, in the sense that the architectural practice then was not giving me what I wanted. Generally, a one-man architectural show is the principal that goes for the beating, is the principal that decides the design, and basically, as an architect, you are just a draftsman. They tell you what to do, and there was no thinking process for us. So I was frustrated, and luckily Lagos opened up, and I got into GHK. Sometimes they ask me, why are you calling yourself an industrial architect? I think I was, by chance, I became an industrial architect. Early stage, we were all used to design of houses, commercial properties, and all that. But my firm, GHK, is a pioneer in industrial design. And when I got into the firm in that particular year, I think 2009, November to be precise, I was privileged to be under the tutelage of late architect Tunde Kuye. May God rest his perfect soul. And that was how I started industrial design. And I have no regret doing it because it's an interesting arm of design. And that was how I started my journey. I've been opportune to work on different industrial designs, from food and beverages to warehousing to cosmetics, all cut across board. And I would say a big thank you to, I use to say a big thank you to the teams I work with, because the team made me what I am today. And I will explain briefly how this thing works. I strongly believe that in a architectural consultancy firm, at the managerial level, you need three people. Number one is the team that, or an individual who is very charismatic and has the contact. They might not do any design, but they bring in the job based on their contact and their level of socializing. And then the second group of people are those who are so good with conceptualization of designs. And then the third people are those who are good with construction implementation and contract management. With those three at the managerial level, I think a consultancy firm will stand the test of time based on my experience. And this transcends to those who do the work in the office. When it comes to teamwork, you can be called upon to do anything. And I remember in some cases, despite the level I was in the office, I might just be the one who will put together the figures for the project. When I mean figures, the professional fee, do the calculation, present it to the client, and ensure that the client buys into the fees we want and negotiate appropriately. That might just be my role in the team. And at the end of the day, the project is completed and we have our fee. So when it comes to teamwork, it might not necessarily be you doing the design. And that was how I moved from department to department within different teams. And that was what brushed me up, and made me a better architect in the practice. I remember really well that one of my very good friend, Muamola Kuye, I worked under him on a project in Agbara. He was the team lead, and I was the boy for the purpose of learning and for the purpose of getting the project done. And the project was a success. And that's why I hold on to having good teams. When you have good teams, I can assure you less headache, more productivity, and more money at hand. When I look at my successes, I think one of them is innovation. One of them is innovation. When I talk about innovation, I've been able to push boundaries with design and material construction technique. And I think one of the examples was a Holy Cross when we did HVAC project. Holy Cross is a building that was built in 1960. I can't remember the figure now. 1960 something. Very old building, very iconic. Lagos Island, very close to Saint Nicholas. And when you look at this project, they wanted the client wanted to improve on it by having air conditioner system. And the idea is, don't change how the interior looks. Work with it, adjust it applicably, and ensure that the internal forms are the way it is. And we had to do a lot of innovation to ensure that we were able to achieve that. Secondly, I think is one of the success I have is sustainability. For sustainability, I have been able to create some buildings, and in particular one is RTD Milo plant, Nestle Agbara, and I think that's what I will share with you as one of my portfolios for better understanding of what was achieved there. The third one is cultural impact. I've been opportune to work with very lovely team on building restoration of historic buildings. And one of the buildings was Ilojoba, Lagos Island, through Legacy Group. It has been a great experience on that building restoration. And basically what we do is we do on-site measurements and try and restore the building to its former glory. Sometimes it works positively well, sometimes not, especially due to funds. Then one interesting one which I love so much is architectural archiving, and basically this is storage of preliminary or schematic sketches, construction drawings, blueprints, contract documents, and I learned that so dearly through my firm. I can tell you for free that when you come to GHK, you will get drawings that as old as when the office started in 1956. I think recently, one of the foremost construction company in Nigeria was looking for a particular drawing, and we were fortunate to do an expansion on that drawing few years back, and that is Morehouse Sofitel Hotel. The contractor came to us and said, well, we know you worked on it, can we have the drawings? And we were proud to present it and made some cool money out of it. And that has helped me a lot in ensuring proper documentation of all these documents. I can also say that I think most of the Nestle projects, we have all the drawings, and whenever there is an expansion or planning approval issues, we are able to bring out these drawings to the satisfaction of the client. And that has, all this has been some successes I have made. When it comes to failure, I think one next experience I had was an experience where we had I would call it a structural issue. And what really happened was the client was hell bent in not having an architect on site. He was trying to cut costs. And at the end of the day, when they were doing a casting of a floor, I think the floor is about 10 meters, probably about 100 square meter, it came down crashing. And this impacted on our long-standing relationship with the client, as well as our design. There were a lot of back and forth on that project because of that issue. I think that's one of my failures, and I learned from it that whenever the client is trying to cut corners, he should write down on undertaking that he's the one doing it, so that he won't point fingers when there was problem. Because I was the lead architect on that project. Then I think secondly is sometimes, especially for these our rich Nigerian clients, they have big dreams. After we have done the budgeting for a project, signed and sealed and deliver, and during implementation, the client just decides to keep adding, to keep changing. It becomes a problem. At the end of the day, the budget goes overboard, and the client is asking so much question. How come? How come? And it becomes a problem when we are trying to rectify and put into pen and paper all the changes he has made. So I think basically for me, those are two of my own major failures. When it comes to working philosophy, quality is key. I strive for excellence in everything I do, either design or either bidding for a project, putting whatever assignment I find myself, I try to put in my best for the work. Efficiency. If you are not efficient in your work, I tell you, you lose money. Sometimes you feel because consultancy is not buying and selling, but if you don't finish what you're supposed to do within a period of time, you'll discover that there's no profit. You work longer time without getting good compensation for it. So whatever you do, efficiency is key. One must be creative and adaptive. You just have to be creative and adaptive to the situation. The architectural climate is changing. The competition is high, and so you just have to find a way of being creative and adaptive to the situation. Oh, I love celebrating achievements and learn from setbacks. That is very key for me to move forward. I aim high and I try my best to contribute to my field. I love criticism. That's the only way I always progress. In the office, as little as an IT student can criticize my work because no knowledge is lost. And that has always helped me to be better. I encourage other younger ones and uplift them because that's the only way we can all move forward. I remember a young friend of mine came for is it NYC in our firm, and somewhere along the line, an Indian friend of mine said, "Kai, I want to build a retirement home in India. I don't mind if you can help me." And so I just told this young guy because I know he was good. I just did the scheme, hand it over to him, and handed the guy over to the Indian man. And to tomorrow, the guy is up there. And that has always been my joy, encouraging and uplifting other architects who come my way, giving good reference. It is only when someone is dead that he doesn't learn. I'm always curious and I want to learn and grow. Sometimes when we have design meetings, especially with the other consultants, I listen carefully, understand the concepts they are bringing in, and that has always made me better because when I listen, I understand what they are doing. I think some few years back, I saw something totally different, an inverted foundation. I have never seen it in my life. During the course of my work, it's always normal. You have your footing, your what do you call it? Your footing is down with your columns up. But this soil was a very, very peculiar one. And the structural engineer just said, well, I think I can go this way and it will work because I have done it before. And it was very great. It worked and the building is still standing today. I think somewhere in the Amu ward of it. So I give myself to constant learning, especially from those who have gone ahead, those who are there, who are just even my mate or my junior because no knowledge is lost. Integrity is also key to me. My yea is yea, my no is no. I always try to uphold all ethical standards because we don't know tomorrow. We don't know tomorrow. So we must always stand firm in whatever we do. And in standing firm as an architect, I always, at a point where there's always conflict between client and contractor, I stand to be an umpire. I won't be biased. I'll tell the client the way it is. Sometimes the client gets angry and says, why are you supporting this contractor? And I'll tell the client, if this contractor goes to court or arbitration, what we have? Let's call a spade a spade. Let's settle whatever financial issues or whatever contract you have signed. And we all go home happy. And I think finally, I love building positive relationships with my colleagues in the field. Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't know why my slide is not showing. I think Gbenga has helped me out with that. I would like to share my experience on one of the project that I was opportune to be the lead. It's a Milo plant, ready to drink Milo plant, Nestle Agbara. It was a brownfield. The building was built in the 60s. It was even designed and built in the 60s by my late chairman, Professor John Godwin, who passed on, I think, last year. Yeah, last year, yes, last year. May God rest his soul. He has paid his own price. He gave us the opportunity for teamwork, and that is what we are building on now. This project was on a brownfield. It was a very difficult one because the building was not in use again, had a lot of piping works that the client wanted to reuse. Now, a building that was built in the 60s, how do we reuse them without breaking so much slabs and all that? It took us some months to actually outline the existing drains, those that can be reused and those that have to go. And it was an interesting one. Along the line, the choice of contractor was based on what I call referral. The contractor has been working for us with the client before, and then we got it on. Now the building is so sustainable because we had to implement what we call tropical architecture for this factory by introducing a lot of fin overhangs to reduce the effect of heat on the building and maximize stack ventilation. It's a building that we reduced a lot of mechanical ventilation a lot just to make the building sustainable. You know, some people will say, oh, industrial buildings are very, very simple. I can tell you for free, they are not simple. It goes through a lot of process. The first process is always you have to stay close with the plant manufacturer. They are the one that specify the spaces they want, because the equipment, they would have done a lot of equipment drawings, which we have to study intricately and ensure that the spaces provided are exactly what they need and the machines are located in the exact place, because any little diversion, either plus or minus, is going to be a problem. And I can tell you for free, you as an architect, especially working with this multinational, you will pay some fees once this problem is detected, and it usually hampers on their timing. It affects a lot of things. So it's a very critical job, and I'm glad I've gone that way, and we keep doing it. It's always a joy to work on production floors. Along the line, you study how their production flows, and each production line is different from the other. How they produce soap is different from how they produce Milo, or what do you call it, fruit juice. You have to study the process, understand how it works, and advise the client accordingly. Oftentimes, the drawings come from Europe, especially Europe, and they use their own client to do their own design. So you have to work on it to ensure that it follows our own climate here. And that is how this job came about. It looks so small, but what went in time, energy, and resources was very, very enormous. On a final note, I think I would like to share two things in my own experience so far. Number one is design management. When it comes to design management, as an architect, you have to pay so much attention to details, right from when you are bidding to when you get the award. You must learn how to document. Along the line, when you are designing, you might change the drawings 10 times. You can have revisions of up to 50, but you need to keep tab. Why? A day will come, the client who is giving this instruction will ask you, I thought I asked you to put WC here. Why is there no WC here? And then you can because of your records, you go back to it and get it out. Now, when it comes to, in addition to design management, your drawings must be properly detailed. Normally, we say sketch design. Sketch design basically is you doing your scheme, presenting to the client, and then the client signing off. When you come to the construction drawings, which is always one of the challenges I have, the younger generation are so much in love with 3Ds. Oh, they do 3Ds to wow the client. It's beautiful, but how buildable are all the features you have put on the drawings? So your construction drawing must pick every line and details, and that's what, by the time you are implementing, it makes life easy for you, it makes life easy for the contractor, and the work goes smoothly. Variations will be reduced because you have picked up everything. And by the time you go to tender, your drawings are well detailed, that the QS has picked up everything till to the what they call it, to the minute detail. Your door and your window and door schedules, your door showing the type of knobs, your door showing the type of finishes, just detail. Reason being is it makes life easy when you are implementing. At the implementation stage, variation is reduced to the barest minimum. I know for sure that sometimes the clients might not have the patience for you to go that way. I have done a project like that before, that the equipment was on the high seat. The client says, come, I can't wait, I have tied money down and time is counting for me. And what we did was go to sites, we awarded the contract, but whatever changes we have made were well monitored and well documented, and that was how we were able to manage the what do you call it, the design management. Now, construction management, apart from the general supervision that we do, I think we need to pay attention to contract management. We don't pay so much attention to contract management, and it's a problem. Reason being is this: when you work with contractors who are so good in keeping details, the likes of Kappa and Dabato, Julius Berger, Buyit, they will mess you up as an architect. You must understand what the contract says, and you must follow it to the letter, so that at the end of the day, you are sure that your integrity is intact. The contractor, the client will respect you more. I can assure you about that. And when it comes to contract management, you are talking about things like extension of time. What does it say in the contract? We're also looking at LAD, liquidated and asserted damages. What is it saying? Sometimes the client will say, I will pay if I delay your work. Oftentimes they don't pay. But once the contractor delays, they want to pick on the contractor. So if you don't understand all these things, it becomes a problem. I had a nasty experience on one of the projects. I think basically it had to do with extension of time. The client, the contractor rather, wrote a ridiculous price and bringing so many funny documents. We had to painstakingly sit down and look at all these documents. Interestingly, they will claim extension of time for rainfall, especially when the construction is during the raining season. And the client was asking for money on that. Now, assuming we were not good at the little we are doing under construction contract management, we would have paid the contractor the money he was asking for. And at the end of the day, if a third party from the client picks it up, it's going to be a problem. So from my own little experience, we must learn contract management. It's very, very important. Most architects don't do that. All they are concerned about is supervision. And supervision goes beyond you checking if your wall is straight or the quality of pricing is okay. we must look at what do you call it, construction. We must look at contract management. On a final note, some of the challenges we see is, I think one is, uh, how do you convince your client that he has to pay for the value of work done? It's a very big challenge. With the multinationals, is a little bit, dicey, because I think my colleague, architect Gidi Osho, when he was speaking the last time, he was mentioning things like that. I have an issue with the supply chain. When you are negotiating with them, they just turn, what they call it. They turn consultancy to buying, what do you call it, tomato and pepper. And that's why I've always advocated that when it comes to the supply chain, they should have somebody who has a sense of construction, consultancy work, in order for them to appreciate what we are bringing to the table. Oftentimes the prices they give us, they are not sustainable. They are killing. You can imagine you presenting your fee for them to agree, and somebody from nowhere in the supply chain who has no understanding of how this thing works, be telling you that with experience that you have to do this work for 50%. It's killing. Then thirdly, we challenges with clients. I know it's in this part of the world that rich people don't like to pay. I don't know why. They want the best services and yet don't want to pay. I just don't understand why. Even the peanuts you agree to collect from them, they just don't want to pay. And it's something that I've always had issues with. I remember there was a time in my firm, my senior partner just said, "Come, Leye, this man is getting to me. Go and meet him. Go and negotiate. I'm not interested again. I'm tired of speaking too much grammar." And she pushed it to me, and it became my headache. And that was when I appreciated the effort she's putting to get a client to pay for the professional services. And I think probably generally I believe that that's where the challenge is. And I'm hoping that the professional bodies can wake up and help us out in fine-tuning whatsoever is in the paperwork to ensure that clients pay for the services. Nobody respects the what do you call it, scale of fees, either from NIA or ACA, Association of Consulting Architects of Nigeria. They don't. If you put it down, they tell severally, they will just tell me, "Bros, put this thing aside. Eh? This is how much I have." And I think at this point, I've been able to share my thoughts, my experiences on this lovely show. Gbenga, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leye. I think it's been a great session. Hearing you share your very diverse experience. I want to say it's been interesting, really interesting. I think I must say that I'm not surprised. Really, you always had it in you. You know, you know, back in the days in college, you always had that knack for being technical, for being thorough. You were not that flamboyant architect. You were that hardcore architect. So I'm not surprised that you didn't follow the trail of the 3D modeling, animation, and
Yeah.
talk to your guns. I'm not surprised. I think you simply lived out your DNA, and I think I want to thank you for your time. I mean, you spoke you know about the number of things. Your experience with inverted foundation,
Yes.
stack ventilation, liability of the architect, and I think that's an area that is quite interesting. That I think our audience may really learn from. That architects are actually liable, not just the contractor. Architects are liable if your design is not working or performing as expected, if there is variation that is not due to the client's instruction and the client did not approve it, you are liable. And I think it's an area that, with your experience, you've been able to touch on. You spoke about managing production floors for industrial buildings. That you have to become the manufacturer yourself. You have to understand their process. I mean, that was a very good one. That was about user user design. That's about how the architect must become user centered in their design. Our design must be human centered as well. You spoke about architectural archiving, and I think that's interesting that a practice like yours, 1956, that's spanning about 60 to almost 70 years now, and you could still retrieve drawings that are over 50 years old. That's a lot of learning points for younger designers, new firms. That, oh, a client can come to you and request and demand for drawings of about 25, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And so, I mean, your experience has been really helpful. It's been insightful. You spoke about managing the design process, record keeping in terms of design management on the project. That's a very good one. You also spoke about bidability and managing what you could call high caliber contractor, Kappa and Debato, Julius Berger, Boyis, and I know there could be a pain in the neck, particularly with their very very rigorous demands. But I think really that's what makes great buildings. Great buildings are not the outcome of just fantastic design, rather they are the outcome of thorough technical detailing of a project. And I think that's one thing you must commend these multinational contractors for. A good number of them are very thorough with their process of construction. So I think, Mr. Leye, thank you very much. You've been able to cover a lot of ground. I'm just trying to recap the things you mentioned, and really, it showed that teamwork with the dream work. You showed us how the fact that there are diverse parties. So the work you do, younger colleagues, senior colleagues. I talk about your senior partner, sending you somewhere. I talk about your junior colleague that you assisted with a job with a foreign, client. So really, teamwork really makes the dream work. No designer can really exist as an island of knowledge. You need to collaborate. You need to partner. So I want to say thank you very much. We are very grateful for your time. I think we'll just try and see if we can take a few questions. So I'll just ask our administrator to find out if there are a few questions from Mr. Leye before we let him go. Okay, so I think there's a question from Muamola Drone. Muamola Kuya. So that's for you, Agdele. How do you manage crisis? Yes, sir.
Okay. When it comes to crisis, design team, consulting team, and stakeholders, it's amazing to know that as an architect, you have to be an umpire, because when you take sides, it becomes problem. I think which I can't remember an experience. I'm trying to get an experience I can share. Yes, there's one. So I think in Ogba we had a project where the client was not sure of what he wants. So the what do you call it now? The consulting team, is more. I'll use the word ashajo. Bear with me, Mr. Gbenga, in the sense that it's ashajo in the sense that we were the team lead, but the client says, "Oh, this is the mechanical consultant I have. Take it." We have never worked with that team before, but we can't deny the client's preference. How they met, how they agree, we don't know. Now it was so funny because the mechanical team, we don't even know the contract he had with the client. So whenever we have what do you call it, request for information, it becomes difficult to get information out of them. And then there was a time I had to ask one of his younger workers, okay, cool, what's the agreement between you and the client? And that's why I have to say that oftentimes we have to be the umpire. Don't take sides. Look at it in black and white and face it. That same project, we had a meeting where I think it had to do with synchronization of the generators and the gas and things like that. Synchronization of the generators, whereby once NEPA goes off, it comes on. I'm trying to remember the name of this very popular. Yes, Nayada. They were the contractors. And so we had a meeting. And in that meeting, the MD was there, the client was there, I was there, my senior partner was there. And all of a sudden, I just discovered that the contractor was trying to lobby the client to pay a figure that was not reasonable. And I spoke to him immediately that, Mr. Man, it's not possible. Then he raised his voice at me, maybe because I'm a black man. So I returned it back to him, that guy, I'm an umpire in this business. I know what your contract says, and I know what is what should come to you, even if there. And it was during COVID, so there were a lot of variations. He got angry, he was shouting. I kept quiet, I kept my cool. I've told him what I wanted. So at the end of the day, because I was the umpire, I didn't side the client and I didn't side him, but I ensured that I was the umpire. I was just and fair. At the end of the day, the client was happy. He was happy. And by the time we left the meeting, he came to me and said, Architect, I'm very sorry. It's because this money issue has been on for a while. And that was how we settled it. So I think for me, when it comes to crisis, just be an umpire. Don't take sides. It puts you on a good book and it puts you at a higher level. But by the time you're taking sides, before you know it, you will annoy the client. The client will even sack you. The contractor will not give you job. You will move on and look for another job. So I think for me, that's the way it should be. My good friend is asking too much question.
No.
What are your thoughts on artificial intelligence in industrial architecture in Nigeria? Just the way social media has its own advantages and disadvantages, AI too will definitely have its advantages and disadvantages. I think for me, for industrial architecture, it is good because it will aid better productivity. But I can say for free that it cannot take away the thinking thoughts of the architect. I don't think so. In industrial architecture, for me, for production, it will work. It will be perfect. But for AI to take away the thinking faculty of the architect, I don't think so, because there will be a lot of conflict. Now, you see, this artificial intelligence, it looks beautiful now, but they are going to have their own side effects. A day will come, somebody from nowhere will just tamper with the OS, and then it becomes to malfunction. So what happens? Once there is no human being in the factory, it's just robot, and the robot decides to start making his own weapon, to face human beings. There are limitations to it, and I think currently EU has brought out laws and regulations to control AI, and there are some AI they have banned. So for me, it's not a bad idea. We pick what is good and leave what is bad out, just like social media. Some social media is good, but it has its own disadvantages. You just take advantage of what it is, and we make use of it. Productivity will be better, I believe so.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think
kindly give us one watchword for good team. My dear brother Molakuye, I remember I said that I worked with him as boy on one of the projects in Alalade. I think for a good team, everybody can be the same. We all have our strengths, we all have our weakness. I will give a very funny scenario. In the office, a team, we put the team together, and I asked my younger colleague, okay, this is your role. And fine, go ahead, I will get it done. First week, second week, what's happening now? Let's see what you have done. Oh, I'm working. So I think about a week to deliver the drawings to the client. I said, come, this girl. I start my field. I said, Give me what you have done. Let me see it. And unfortunately, what I have was not my standard. I was in a mess, but the whole team was in a mess, not her. Because at the end of the day, it is your team that gets the accolade. For a good team, I think we can't all be the same. We just have to watch out for each other and raise the hands of each other. Because at the end of the day, when you raise the hand of each other, the person becomes a better person in that team. That's the way I see it. Nobody is perfect. We make mistakes. Even I myself, I make mistakes on drawings. But the younger one will say, brotherly, I think this line should not be here. Or I think this window should be somewhere here. Or this door should be better placed here. And then when we pull each other hands, we get a better team.
All right. Thank you very much. I think your answers were very succinct. This last one really, you know, hit the chord that you pull each other up, you support each other in a
You just
team
have
because
to.
the team success is not for one person, and the team failure
Oh,
is not for one
it's
person; it's for the entire team. And so every team member needs to contribute their quota. Well, I think Akitemo Amola asked the question about your thoughts on AI. Uh, that's interesting. Your thoughts on AI in industrial architecture in Nigeria. Well, I would like to mention to you and to Akitamoa Mola Kuye, and I think every other person here that in about 25 days or so from now, our next edition of this, webinar will be a conference.
yeah.
It's titled,
Okay. Okay.
yes, will be a conference that's titled AI and the Future of Design. And we're bringing in a couple of
That's great.
fantastic speakers. We're bringing in Professor, I think, Uzo, something, I'll confirm his name. We are bringing in Dr. Azar Oshe of Kronos. We are bringing in
Okay. Okay.
uh, Okolie of Click Designs. We are bringing in Dr. Wakoye, also an expert in BIM. We're bringing in, a diverse range of professionals to speak to this topic, to share thoughts, ideas. I'm trying to be very, rigorous engagement. I think, can we have the slide for that event on our admin? Okay, good. So this will be holding on the 19th to 20th of April. We'll be having things like trends and challenges in AI, human-centered AI design approaches, AI integrations in design process, and of course there'll be a workshop. And so I think this will be a good one for Architect Mola and Architect Leye.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you
Sir.
come for this event, your assumptions will be tested. Your fears will be eliminated. But I think it will be very engaging session. I love technology, I love innovation, and the power it can have on design and the power it can have on the world. It's amazing, and I'm sure also we know that no matter what technology, tech always rides on the back of human thinking, and so I totally
Yes.
agree with you. Tech can never exist in isolation. It always rides on the back of human thinking, right? And human thinking, like Jack Ma would say, that beyond the tech, there must be the human empathy. And so, that human-centered approach comes into AI. I believe by April 19th to and 20th, we'll be having a very exciting and rigorous conversation on how AI will shape the future of design and construction in Nigeria, in Africa, and the world over. So, Mr. Leye, thank you very much for your time. Our audience, thank you very much for your time. Mr. Leye, thank you. On that short notice, we were able to respond to our invite, and you gave a very, very insightful presentation. And I think before we go, just a question as we're going, sir, what did you do? How did you rise to become a partner?
Ah, good question.
I think it's a question in the last.
I Okay. I think foremost, I think I use the word. I will use the word patience and loyalty. Patience and loyalty. And when I mean patience, There are times I wanted to leave and just move on. But also, I also look at it that GHK gave me everything. Let me use that word. I was trained by GHK, and I felt, well, let me give myself back to GHK and see how it goes. And I think loyalty to a good cause, in the sense that GHK was just, it was a platform for me to how will I put it now, uh, bring out myself. I had a lot of opportunities that probably I wouldn't have had if I was probably running my show at the back door. So I think patience, loyalty, and just do. I basically just do the word doing what I love doing, putting perfection to the little imperfection that is there, and getting the work done, even on tight corners. I'm not praising myself, but I think basically is getting the work done. I think I remember in the early days, I got married on a project. I couldn't go for honeymoon. On the project, I took my laptop. On the wedding, yeah, I was given 2 weeks leave because the client told me you must not go anywhere. This work, now you get out, fix it for me. And I went for my wedding, carried my system along. Wedding night, even before I was on the system, referring not basically because they are paying me salary, but I just felt whatever has been handed over to me, I must do it well and deliver well. And I think it opened doors for me in GHK and brought me to this point.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I wasn't surprised when I got to know you had been made partner at GHK. I always knew your dexterity. I always knew your thoroughness as a student. You were that one student, that was just thorough. You were the easygoing person, but you loved your work from time immemorial. You always loved your work. You were technical in nature. You were thorough, and so really, I want to say congratulations, my brother,
Thank
for
you,
that
Zach Bengene.
for that feat, and I can only wish you more successes as you grow on in your career. And I hope when next we call on you to share your experience with us, you will share them with us. Thank you for your patience, loyalty at GHK, and I think it pays off really to stay on something and stay on it well and stay on it for a long time. Thank you very much, Mr. Leye. I want to thank you and thank our audience
Thank you,
to
Mr.
see
Gbenga,
you
for
again.
having me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Leye.
And
Really.
wish you all the very best on the project. It's coming
Yeah.
out well. Good
Thank you.
progress. Good
Thank you.
progress.
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful.
All right, my
Thank
brother.
you very much. All right.
Thank you once
Bye.
again for having me. Bye
Yeah, you're
bye.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye for now.